Hi, thanks for tuning in to this live broadcast that I'm doing about gamifying the classroom, the office, and the home. I think you'll find this useful if you're a teacher, a parent, or just somebody in the office who wants to encourage a certain type of culture. So I'm going to be starting by sharing a little bit about what gamification is in the context of a classroom first. Gamification is the idea of applying aspects of games that we like to the classroom, to the home, the office, places where the elements of a game are typically not present. Let me jump over to OneNote here, where I'll just use it to share some of what I'm doing. Let me share my screen. So typically, gamification has the goal of engagement. You want people to be engaged more in whatever area of work that you're in, whether it's the classroom, maybe it's an event that you're hosting. You want to add those elements of gaming to make it engaging. You want to give the sense of progress. You're working towards something. So in the classroom, the sense of progress would come with learning something new, feeling like you're growing to become somebody who's better at a certain skill, or simply just better as a citizen. These are the two big things. I won't go too deeply into some of these ideas. I think there's a lot of resources out there that you can search for on gamification. Authors like James G. Any of the writing on this idea. Now, where we're going to go with this particular video is we're going to make an app that takes the elements of games and apply it to different areas. So let's talk about the elements of gaming. So over here, I have the purpose, the two main purposes. Let's talk about the elements. Things that you'll see in a video game that would be useful to engage users, would be useful for feeling progress, would be goals. What are those goals? Define those goals. What do you get for those goals? Achievements. Are they numeric? Are they qualitative, quantitative? What are they? Define those things. Along with that, define it in levels. When you get to a certain amount of achievements, where are you? What have you what level have you achieved up to a certain point? If you've unlocked 5 achievements, 10 achievements, where are you? This gives a sense of of, of, of knowing where you are, finding out what you've accomplished. There's a lot more that we can go into here. These are going to be the 3 that we look at today. Okay. Let me draw a roadmap of where we're going to go. We're going to start with tables. We're going to make the tables that will have our students, our users. We're going to write down some of the achievements that they'll be able to accomplish, just a few, just to get things started. So this is going to include the students, the achievements, the logs, the ongoing log, the ways that we sum things up. You'll see how that comes out. Once we have those tables, we'll go into the app, and we should have enough time to build it all out. A people picker, an achievement picker, and a way of patching all that information. Any additional time that we do have will be for refinements. We'll refine the app, and we'll include some more advanced or deeper uh, ways of thinking about gamification for these areas. So gamification overall. So that's our roadmap. We'll start with the tables, go into the app, and as time permits, we'll go into the refinement. So let's go ahead and start. I'm pulling up a new, I'll go ahead and make a new spreadsheet. I'm starting this from scratch so that I can show you what am I thinking about as I'm building tables. It's important to think about the tables that you have as part of your learning and Power Apps. So when I'm building these tables, I'm going to start with an ID. All my tables have an ID number so that I can refer back to any of the rows to records. For this particular table, I'll rename it so that so that I know my purpose. This one's going to be for students. I want a list of students' first names and the student's last name. I'm going to add more columns to this later, but this is my basic requirement. ID number for this person. Before I continue, let me give this a name. Call it the app data. My ID number, my first name, and my last name. I'll add another sheet here at the bottom. And this time I'm going to zoom in so it's a little easier for you to see. This page is going to be for the achievements. What can they unlock? As I go along, I'll share with you caveats. What to make an achievement, what not to make an achievement, and what I've learned along the way. Let me make that plural just for namesake. Up here, I have my ID column again. I have the title of my achievement, the amount of points it might be for. Okay, that'll be the basic things that I need. So let's talk about what you might want to encourage in your classroom, your office. What feeling do you want your users to have for progress? So in a classroom, maybe I'm teaching multiplication. I might have as one of my daily routines some pair practice. Students have a card where they have a set of facts. Maybe you're practicing the fives one of these days. So I want to say that if a student improves in pair practice, whether it's the time or the accuracy, I want to give an achievement for that. So that'll be ID number 1. The amount, I might say, because this is a daily task, I'm going to set this amount small. Maybe it's going to be worth 1 point. I like to use small amounts for each of the achievements because I could always multiply it by 1, I can multiply it by 10, multiply it by 20, 100, whatever multiplier later. The idea is to keep these numbers small so I could see the relative ratio with other achievements. Another idea of an achievement would be something a little bit larger. Suppose they didn't just improve in pair practice, but they showed mastery of a certain fact. of a certain set of facts. So I might have as an achievement mastered a set of facts that scale it out wider. Mastering a set of facts, probably about 10 sets of facts, right? One times 5 times 1 all the way up to the 5 times 2, 4, 8, 3, 6, 9, and then 5 times 7. So that's probably about 10 sets of facts that this person's mastered. And if this is a one-off achievement, I'm going to have it larger. I'm going to have it 5 times more, maybe 10 times more. I just have a placeholder here. I could always readjust these as I go along. So the idea is, so big takeaways here. Keep your amount small so that you see the ratio. Number the achievements as you go along, and choose things that advance the things that you want to show. I want to show growth. We'll add more to this list in a moment. Let me zoom out. Let's add another list here. As students go along, I'm going to be wanting to apply an achievement to a student. We'll call this the log. Here at the top, I always have my ID column. I'm going to log the achievements that students earn as they go along. A good log always has a date. So I'm going to include a created on date time. Besides the date, I want to know who's getting one of these achievements. I'll call them the recipient. Now, I don't want to put down the first and last name of this student. In the previous tab, let me go down to the students here. For my list of students, I gave an ID number. So now throughout the app, throughout these tables, I could reference this student's ID number instead of their first name and last name. So jumping back to my log, scrolling up, I have the recipient as an ID. I want to know who gave this, giver ID. For my purposes, I'm going to be having this as an email address. I want to know what achievement they earned. Now, I'm not going to list out the name of the achievement. Let's suppose that I have the achievement as improve in pair practice. And let's say I have like 32 students in a day who improved in pair practice. My data would look like this. Maybe somewhere down the line, I make a change to this achievement. I would have to go back into the table and revise it in this log. I don't want to have to do that. By associating the achievement not by its name, but by its ID number, I have a more efficient set of data here, a more efficient log. Also with the achievement, I actually want to include the amount here. Amounts in the original, let's suppose I make a change to the original achievement. Maybe I change the amount that it's worth. Maybe I have a promotion on a certain day that a certain achievement is going to be worth more on this day. Well, if I change the amount, it'll change it historically. So I'm going to associate a different amount. I'm going to let the amount be flexible, be variable. It won't change, and I will know when these things change too. So having a created on date time allows me to track when a certain achievement should be changing its amount or not. And having this amount column will make it possible for me to sum up the achievements for each person more easily. I have my 3 basic tables. Let's go ahead and load in some students. Let me load in some students. I'm going to copy this table that I already set up beforehand. This is a fake set of data, fake set of students here. The other tables, as expected, they should be blank. I mean, the log should be blank. The achievements here are just going along. Um, let's go ahead and load that in Power Apps. I'm going to go to my tab for creating apps in Power Apps. I'll go to the home screen here, logging into web.powerapps.com. I'll create a new app from blank. And what I want to do is have a few different options here. I could do a phone-sized app. Maybe it's an app that I want to carry with me as I go along. Maybe I want a larger app. Let's say students have this app on their Chromebooks or whatever devices that they're using, Surface Go laptops. Maybe they have that larger form factor. I could choose any of the sizes that I want. I'll go ahead and make this as a tablet form factor, just so that I have a little bit more space. Let me zoom out. Here in Power Apps, I'll start by connecting my data sources. I go to View, Data Sources. A panel pops up on the right-hand side. I click Add Data Source. I've already added a connection to Google Sheets. So I'll pull that up. Oops, wrong one. Let me close that out. I go back to View Data Sources. Cancel that. Add. And selecting Google Sheets. Get to do a search for that app data. And select all three of these data sources. While that's loading up, let's jump back to our roadmap. We created our tables. Next, we're in the app now. I'll start with a people picker. I'll make an achievement picker, and then we'll patch. Let's go back. A good way of making a people picker is to use a gallery. So if I go to Insert, Gallery, there's a few different options here. Right now, I don't really have pictures for each student. And I mostly just have their name. So what I'll do is I like to make my galleries custom. I'm going to insert a blank vertical gallery. Let me zoom out here. An easy way of binding a gallery to my data is to use the data panel. So on the right-hand side, I'll bind this to my students table. If I insert a label here, I can see my students and show different data for them. For my purposes, because this is a people picker, I want to have picking ability. A checkbox is good for picking. Right now, the checkbox has a text property of the word option. I'm going to set this to the first name. You'll see right here immediately the IntelliSense knows it shows different columns that are available. I'm going to set some names here. So I put the first name, and maybe I want to show the last name as well. So let me concatenate. I have the first name, I have the and symbol to connect, to concatenate. I put a space here in between quotation marks, and then I might put the last name here. So their name appears. But before I continue, I've got a question here from Vuong. Which one is faster to process, Excel and OneDrive, Google Sheets, Dropbox, or SharePoint list? Before I answer that, I'll say that the Google Sheets that I've set up in this particular instance is not an Excel sheet on OneDrive. It's just directly it's a spreadsheet made on Google Sheets. The speed on OneDrive versus OneDrive versus Google Drive versus Dropbox versus SharePoint list. I really haven't tried the speed on each of those, but I will say the last place where I did store an Excel sheet was Dropbox, and that seemed to be faster than when I had stored things on OneDrive. Um, so I can't comment on the speed on SharePoint because I haven't tried it myself, but I hope that answers your question, Vuong. Thanks for asking, and please do ask questions on the chat window. I do have it pulled up on another screen that I have. Continuing along here, let me zoom out just so that you can see what's going on. I have a checkbox with the student's name. Now, I want to see more students at a time. So what I might do in the properties panel here, I have my gallery selected overall. And on the side here, I have this wrap count property. If I increase this, if I increase it to 2, you'll see that 2 students appear at a time. If I increase it to 3, more show up. Maybe I want 4. Starts to crowd up a little bit. For that purpose, I'll stretch it out, and then I have more space. What if I wanted to have more students in a row or in a column? Because this is a vertical gallery, right now it has a gallery template size of about 280 pixels. I'm going to increase or decrease it to just 50 pixels, and you'll see that the checkbox fits very well here. Okay, now I have my classroom showing up at a time. Let's perform some actions so that I'm actually picking these students. The checkbox has a few different properties for the actions that I could perform. Let me zoom in here. I could have actions perform when I check this box, so the onCheck property. When I uncheck a checkbox, it can perform different actions. And when I just click a checkbox, regardless of what action I'm doing, it can have an action there as well. Right now, I'll be performing an action on check. I'm going to create a collection. You could think of a collection as like a shopping cart. It's temporary in this instance of the app. When I close the app, it'll all be gone. Whatever I select is going to be gone. A collection is a table. I can put whatever information I want into this table. So in this shopping cart kind of idea, I'm going to pick a student. The way collect works is I put down the name of the function, collect. I give a collection a name. I could call this group of things whatever I want, this table whatever I want. I'll call it the selected students. Here I'm using a camel case. I want to collect this item. What this item means is, let me jump over to my tables here. And let me zoom out here. So if I go back to my app data, let me bring this right beside my app. This item is going to pull up an entire row. So if I say collect, if I click a person, it'll collect this entire row of data. If I click Enrico, it'll collect this entire row for him. Going back to my app here. So it's going to be collecting Adele when I click Adele. Before I click anybody, I'm going to perform some actions on unchecking. When I click this box again, and they're already checked, I want to remove student, this item, from selected students. So let me go over the pattern right now. When I check the box, it'll collect. When I uncheck, it'll remove them from the selection. I have one more thing to do. I'm going to go into the default property. Oops. In the default property, I'm going to tell the checkbox what state it is currently in. By default, the checkbox is off. I want the checkbox to follow what it's currently in. So I could give it a condition. If uh, if this item dot ID, if the ID number of this student is exactly inside the selected students dot ID, if this ID number one for Adele is in the collection of the ID column of the selected students, check this box. Otherwise, leave it unchecked. Zooming out here, I'll select a few students. If I were to go into View Collections, I'll see that the 4 students I've selected have their entire row of data inside the collection. Let's give a little bit more information to the user of this app. I'll insert a label. Inside this label, in the text property of this label, instead of having the word text, I'll erase all that and I'll say, I want to show a count of the number of students that are shown. So I'll use the count rows function. I'll put the name of my table that I want to count. Shows 4. I have 4 students selected. Now, beside that, I'll concatenate with the and symbol. Concatenate and number of students. I put the word student and the S, and in quotation marks, I also write the word selected. So it'll say blank, whatever number comes out from the count, students selected. Let me play the app. If I click some more students, I have the number adjust. Let's also be purposeful with clearing this. I'm inserting a button on the screen where I can clear that selection of students. Let's also add some text to this button so that it's clearer. So I might clear all the students, and it works. Let's also add a collection. Let's collect everybody. I'm inserting another button here on the screen where I'll say select all. So in the onSelect property of this button, I will clear, select. I can type this right. I'm going to add everybody to that selection of students. The name of my table is students. So here, if I click this button, I'm going to put all of the students in this collection. Okay, just to show it working here. If I select everybody, it selects all 23. I could clear everybody. Before I move on, I've got a question here from Vuong again. How do you remove the border when you click on a checkbox? Oh, I love that question. Okay, so to give you an idea of why that border is appearing, it's appearing for feedback. It's appearing for accessibility. So the way to turn it off is in the, let me see if it's in the basic properties panel. Okay, if you go into the drop-down of the properties, and you go into focused border thickness, right now it has a border thickness of 2. If I set it to 0 and I play the app, that border is gone. So the reason why those borders appear again is because of accessibility, to give that feedback to somebody to know that they selected something. Thanks for asking that. It's a great question. Okay, so my people picker is done. Let's go back to our roadmap here. Now I need an achievement picker. Going into the app here, a good way of picking achievements, I like the combo box. So I go to controls and I insert that combo box. Let me move it over here on the side. Um, Actually, I'll just leave it over here so that I can see if I go over here on the right-hand side, if I go into that data panel, I can easily choose the table that I want bound to it. Also here on the side of the screen, let me zoom in. The combo box has two of these things that I can tell it to do. Primary text is what do I want to show here? What text do I want to appear when I click this drop down? Right now it's showing nothing. I want it to show the title of an achievement. The search field is when I type something into that drop into the combo box, what do I want it to search against? I could actually choose multiple columns. Here I will choose the search field. But if you had multiple columns that you wanted to search against, you can do that. Okay, let's zoom out. There's a few other things that we could configure for this combo box. I like to configure the input text placeholder. By default, it says find items. I want it to say select achievements. I'll put S because I do want to have the possibility of choosing multiple achievements. Let's see it work. So when I click this combo box, it shows me what's available. And if I were to type something in, like the letter I, it shows me all of the all of the records where the title of an achievement has the letter I. Let's try to find something in common. E. Both of these have the letter E. I don't think they have any words in common, but you can pull up. You can imagine that with a large set of achievements, you can choose from many of these. All right, so going back to my roadmap here, I have my achievement picker. That was kind of easy. Okay, the next part is, oh, let's see. Okay, the next part, maybe I want to, let's say I want to clear those achievements as well. What I could do is use this existing clear button. And in the onSelect property, it's already clearing the selected students. I could put a semicolon. I could stretch out this formula bar. And I could actually reset that combo box so that it's empty. Let me play the app. Let's choose some achievements. If I click the clear button, it clears this selection here. All right. The next step is to create this log of these achievements that I'm saving. To do that, I'll insert a button here. I'll give a description to this button to be for submission. Okay. In the onSelect property of this button, right now it's doing nothing. I want it to save all of this. I want it to save all this information. Okay, you ready for this bigger formula? All right. Let's suppose that you have one thing selected inside that combo box. Let's assume that first. We'll build that out first, and then I'll show you how you can have this work for all of the things that are selected in the combo box. So I might say, for all of those students, for all of those selected students, actually, before I do that, I think it's better that I show you how this patch function works. Okay, this is what I want to do. I've got I've got this table of selected students, right? These are my selected students. For each of those selected students, I want it to write a row to this log. Okay. For this student, give them uh, give this student this achievement. Give the next selected student the same achievement, and so on, right? Okay, that's what I want. That's what I want to do with those selected students. Okay, let's do that first. I'm going to use the for all function to say, for all of those selected students, write a record using the patch function. Write it back to the log. Write it to a blank record, of the log. In a blank record, I want you to give an ID number for this, and we'll make this the um, largest ID number. That's one. I want a created on date time. I'm going to make it set to now. I want the recipient ID to be the respective student ID number. I want the achievement ID equal to the one that's selected in the combo box. The selected ID number, the selected achievement in the combo box. And what was the other field that we had? Back to the log. Oh, the amount. Again. And the combo, the selected amount. Close my curly bracket. Let's style this a little bit more. Close my patch function. Close my for. So what does this mean? Me type it as I say it. For each of the selected students, write a record in the log, in the achievement log, here. Write a record in the achievement log. That's it. Okay. Zooming out. So if I were to test this out, let's choose 2 random students, and let's say they improved right here. If I click submit, it'll perform those actions. I see the little ants crawling across the screen. It finished. So I have student number 14 getting achievement 1 that currently has an amount of 1. And you see that it correctly identified, it correctly applied a new ID number as it wrote a record. Oh, I forgot to give a giver ID. Okay, let's go back. All right, below this, I'll put the giver ID. Set that equal to user.email. And you could, let's get into a good practice here. Somewhere on the screen, you could define, maybe on the on-visible property of the screen, you could define who this user is. Set user info equal to user. And what I'm doing here is I'm setting the user information to a variable. That way, I don't have to figure it out every single time. Okay, zooming out. And then here, instead of the user function, I'll set user info. Okay, and I'm gonna go back to this screen for a second. I added another screen and came back to this screen so that it would execute this because it's in the onVisible property right now. All right. So what I've achieved here is I have a selection of students, I have an achievement, and I'm able to submit it. Let's scale it to the next step. What I want to do is after I write this, let's just clear everything. Rather than writing those clear functions, I'm going to have this button select the existing button that's already clearing things when I've finished writing actions. I believe it's button 1, and I think this is a good time to rename my buttons. Okay, so let's go into the tree view here. This label is the label of students selected. We'll call it the label of selection. This gallery is my people picker. Gallery people picker. Button 1, I'll call it button clear. Button 2, I'll call it button select all. The combo box, I'll call it combo box achievement. Button 3, I'll call it button submit. The reason why I keep the name of the control in there, like button, combo box, label, and such, is I might want to be able to search against it and pull up all controls that are that type. Okay. All right, the next thing I want to do is I'm actually not done with submit. Right now it's submitting, assuming that I have one achievement selected. What if I wanted to save multiple? What if I had multiple achievements selected? Okay, so here is how we scale things out. Going back to OneNote here. Let's say this is what I do for one achievement. For one achievement selected, I run this action. So what am I going to do? This is already a for all action. I'm going to do another for all around this. This time it's going to be for each achievement. I'm going to use the for all function. It's pretty much another loop. For each of those achievements, do this thing again. I will need to make it adapt to each of the achievements. So we'll need to reconfigure some of the information inside the patch statement. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to insert a line here. Zoom in. Okay. Let's be purposeful. Let's clear collect the selection of in the combo box. Zoom out just so I can see my IntelliSense. For each of the things in combo box achievement dot selected items, okay, we'll collect all these things to a collection which I'm calling selected achievements. I'm taking everything that's picked from that combo box and putting it into a collection. Now that it's in a collection, one problem that I'm going to come across is, zooming out here, My achievements have an ID column. My students have an ID column with the same name. I'm going to need to use some disambiguation to distinguish which ID column I'm talking about. Or another thing that I could do is I could simply rename this. Rename the columns in this combo box so that the ID column, I'll call it ID with an underscore. I'll close the parentheses. Now, around this function right here, this for all loop that I have that saves all the records, I'm going to run another for all. For everything in the selected achievements, let's bring this up a little bit. For everything in the selected achievements, do this action. Run this for all statement. Run this nested for all statement. Except that save the respective achievement. In this case, it's going to be ID underscore. The amount is simply going to be the amount. The respective amount. So it'll save the respective achievement ID number and the amount. And then afterwards, when it's all done, it'll clear everything. Okay. It looks like we're coming up on time right now. About 9 minutes left. Let's just see this work out. I'm going to, let's be adventurous here. We'll pick 23 students. We'll give them both the achievements, and we'll submit this. It's going to take a while because we're writing 23 times 2, 46 records here. We'll know we're done when that clear has executed. In fact, oh wow, that was fast. Okay. So if we go into the log, wow, we have everybody. So all 23 students received achievement 1 with this amount, and they also received achievement 2 with this amount. Okay, before we move on, before we do anything else, let's do some spreadsheet work. I'm inserting another column over here in the students table, where I'm going to be doing a sum of all the points that they have. I know we're using Power Apps, but we could actually perform these sums externally. So the points here is just we're going to do a filter. So for Adele, I'm going to filter out here, going back to the log, filter the column that I want to sum up. That's the amount column. Filter the things that I want to sum up where the recipient ID column equals this respective ID number. Okay, so I filter it. Then I just sum that column. Enter and commit. Let's see what I did wrong here. Sum up everything in this column. Try that again. Sum up this amount if this equals. Oh, I see. There's this. I see why nothing's popping up. When Power Apps had written this record, they put this little apostrophe in because it considered this kind of like a number. Let's apply text on that. Let's see. I want to turn this back into plain text. Wonder if I could substitute that. Or maybe we turned it into a value, and then we turn it into text. Okay. It doesn't seem to like that. Okay, well, I can figure that part out. I think what I'll do is at this part, I just submit this as text, this ID number, this recipient ID. Oh, I see the problem here. I see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm trying to reference this ID number, but I need to reference C. Did I do that right? If C, no, I did that correctly. Okay, well, I'll troubleshoot this last part on my own, but the idea is once I figure it out, I'll be able to show a sum of everybody's points across this table. I think this is a good time now to take some final questions before I end this call. Vuong is asking a question. When you submit data from Power Apps to Google Sheets, will the formula be automatically updated? Oh, I see what you're asking. So this sum that I have here, will it automatically go back into Power Apps? The answer to that is I will have to do the refresh function in Power Apps to get that. So what I might do is after I clear things, before I clear things, refresh the table of students. Okay. And then it would be able to show their current points. All right, going back here. Yeah, so I will need to figure this part out, and then jumping to my roadmap. So what will I show you next? We won't have time to show it this time, but I'll go into it a little bit. What I want to show is are the achievement levels. Oops. How do I configure levels? And what do I need to watch out for? I do have a few minutes here. Let me go into that because I think it's important. And I'll jump to an existing sheet that I've already picked out here. Okay, levels. Let me tell you about a problem that I had early on in creating a gamification system for my classroom. Here's a table of different levels that students will unlock. I've got like 100, I think 100, yeah, 104. This is based on some pictures that an artist had lent me, pictures of some Star Wars characters. When you're creating a gamification system, it may make sense to start with it may make sense to make your point system linear at the beginning. This is a mistake though, because as students go on, they unlock achievements very quickly, very easily. So you'll want to have, you might start off linearly. Here I've set 5 points for each achievement, and then 10 points, and then 15, and then up as I get to a higher amount, I'm multiplying the amount that they need to unlock the next level. So I'm multiplying by 7% more. And you'll see that it starts to scale out. And then I made a picture over here to show you that how it scales out. It gets very steep, so you'll need to do some math to figure out how you want your system of achievements to be done, right? Just to give you an example, Pokemon Go, it gets, when you go from level 38 or 39 to level 40, you're executing all of the points that you've gained before to get to that next level. It's a little bit too steep. So I'll leave it up to you to think about how you want to do the math there. And I've also included pictures here. I've kind of hidden the URL, but you can set up your table of all the URLs for these pictures that you want. Okay, let me see what else I could do in this last minute. Any final questions before I close out this live call? You can go ahead and type it into the chat window. I've got my chat window pulled up. All right. I'll give you some time to think about questions because I value thinking time. Other things that you might want to know about gamifying your office, your classroom. Um, Let me show you some other achievements here. The idea is to uh, to encourage growth. So it might be students who have already unlocked all of their math facts. You still want to give them things that they can work towards. Here, improving their speed of mastered facts. There's no limit to how many times they can unlock this. So having achievements that can be applied multiple times um, are good ways of moving forward with some of the achievements that you've made. All right. Well, you can, if you did miss this live stream, don't worry about it because it will be available for you to watch later. And I'll be doing some more sessions on this idea of gamification because there's a lot of things that you want to think about as you go along. What to do, what to avoid, what makes good gamification, what causes gamification to work well, and how you can get a lot of buy-in. Let me just give you a little hint, and then I'll end the call. One way of building buy-in is to give your students ways of making their own avatars, right? Let them define this achievement. Let them choose a picture for this achievement. I did that in the first year of making Power Apps for achievements. So I'll stop here and thank you for joining me on this call. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time when I do one of these calls. Have a good weekend.